hairs.
I know, like flying all over the place.
Mine
hair.
is like down and then out, so I have to like do up here.
That's so funny. Mine's just like, I don't have the hair like you. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaley Gray and I have Krissi Trowbridge with me again, and I'm so excited. We were able to talk about kind of like heart healing last week. So if you missed it last week, be sure to stop what you're doing right now and go watch last week's vlog. But this week we're gonna go a little bit more in depth and give you some more examples and just kind of like what to do, like some steps. Because it can be a lot. I feel like we gave a lot of information last week, but it was so good. And so I'm excited to dive in because I feel like a lot of times when we have that question of like what's wrong with me? Like why am I this way? It kind of stems a little bit, I feel like, from identity too.
That's good. Yeah, so that's so true. A big part of, you know, an area where I feel like you can notice like, oh, maybe I do need healing here, is where you don't feel, you know, confident or secure.
Wow, yeah.
A lot of times, you know, or we'll be like self-sufficient, like I think I mentioned of like, oh no, I'm fine, like that wall that goes up. But what we're really doing is protecting, you know, we're not like, okay, Lord, you've created me. Who have you created me to be? We're like saying, I'm gonna shut off this area of my personality or this area of giving because it's too scary. So part of this, it's so beautiful because heart healing restores your identity. I mean, it restores who God's created you to be without the walls and without the self-protection and without the hiding. I think a big part of shutting off, you know, your true identity can come from shame. And we talked a little bit about, you know, rejection. I used that in the previous episode, which if you haven't seen that, definitely go back because this will make a lot more sense. But about rejection, about, you know, maybe a dad not coming to a game or to something that you're doing, or a mom or whatever, and someone not showing up in your life the way that, you know, they should as parents or able to. Now, obviously we understand life happens, but if there's a pattern, a repetitious thing in your life of, you will start learning to believe that lie that people don't show up for me, which that lie will then go into, I'm not worth showing up for, which then will turn into, I'm just easily rejected. Like I'm just not somebody that deserves the best of somebody else. I'm not worth showing up for. So when we are wounded and hurt and we feel like we can't bring that part of us to the table, or it's not worth showing up, we actually will see ourselves according to our wounds.
Oh, wow.
So we will see ourselves according to the parts of us that have been rejected. And we also tend to assume that everyone else looks at us that same way.
Wow. That
they're looking at us going, oh, I see that flaw, or oh, I see that thing in you, or oh, I see that brokenness, or I see that shame, or whatever. So we assume that people see us that way, so that keeps us on the track and on the pattern of not getting to healing.
Wow.
And so we talked last time, you know, it's like, man, well, I always feel this way. What is wrong with me? Why does this keep happening?
Yeah.
And rejection and shame, it's like, you know, you're on the Ferris wheel of shame, and rejection is like someone just keeps putting in that quarter and you're just like going around and around and around, and you'll just keep going until that you break that cycle. Now, I want to preface this and say, like, this is not something that you just, I don't want you to leave this and going, oh my goodness, like there's everything wrong with me. I have to like do this deep dive into this rabbit hole of everything, what could be wrong, what's going on.
Yeah.
This is 100% led by the Spirit. Like God will bring those areas to you when you're ready. And that's what's beautiful about the Lord, is that He doesn't ever force us. It's like an onion. He doesn't like chop the onion in half. He's like layer by layer as we're ready, and He knows when we're ready. So I don't want you to go away from this going like, oh no, I don't want to let Him in at all because I don't want to see what's in there yet. He knows the layers. He knows what has to come off first, and He knows when we're open and willing to do that. But I'll use a kind of a smaller example to help kind of like, how do I identify, right? Because I think a lot of people maybe are like, I think I have those, but how do I know what that is? And so So for me, I'll use an example of my life, and this might sound so silly, but it was real, so real. So driving in traffic. Now traffic doesn't bother me because there's usually a reason, right? There's a wreck, or there's, an accident, there's road construction, there's a reason for it. So it's like, okay, that has nothing to do with me, so traffic is fine. But I started noticing if someone would like cut in front of me without a blinker and just like get in front of me in my lane, or things like that where it felt like, oh my goodness, like you just risked my life, or did you even see me? I would get angry. Like my first response was like, and I didn't really notice until now I have kiddos in the car, and so the things that you say, or your big sighs of like, ugh, and they're like, Mommy, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, that really wasn't worth my reaction. Like, why did I react so strongly to that? And so once I started down this kind of healing journey, I started there's 3 R's that I kind of use. So first is like, I recognized, wow, why did I just react so intensely to someone just getting in the lane? And so the first thing you can do, for me, was in the vehicle, but for you it might be something else. But for me, it was like, okay, they cut me off, and so the first thing you go is, okay, what is this feeling? Not what their action was, but I got angry. Anger is actually like, if you have an iceberg, the anger is like the tip of the iceberg that tells you there's something deeper, and it's pain. So a lot of times we think anger is actually a secondary emotion, where pain, it's triggering pain. So anger is our like, how dare you? Because we don't want to actually recognize that hurt something deeper in us.
Yeah.
So as silly as it sounds, someone cutting me off in traffic caused that reaction to where I was like, oh, okay, I'm recognizing I'm feeling this way. This is something I feel every time I drive if that happens. Okay, Lord, what is this feeling? So for me, it was actually like, wow, how inconsiderate. Like that was so inconsiderate of that person to just cut in front of me. So what did I feel? I felt invisible. I felt like my safety wasn't taken into consideration. I felt like I didn't matter. I felt like their needs were more important than mine. Now this is coming from just someone cutting off.
I was gonna say, this is just from somebody in traffic cutting you off.
Yes, this isn't.
Wow.
Now I know that, and I feel like it's so funny how those things will happen, those little moments that we just tend to go, ugh, and then we're irritated for, 20 minutes, or some people it's the rest of the day.
It can ruin their whole day.
Yes, exactly, because of that morning thing. And we go, why? Well, that's why. It's because it triggered a pain so much deeper in you.
Wow.
Of feeling, because as a child, guess what? I always felt invisible. I felt like my needs didn't matter. I felt like other people were more important. And so I will never forget that day, because I went, wow, the Lord used this example to bring healing to my heart, because He's never going to reveal something to shame us, or to just go, yep, that's just how I made you, like deal with it. He only reveals what He wants to heal, period.
Wow. That's so good.
So that day I recognized, okay, this is definitely a reoccurring pattern in my life where I feel anger because I feel hurt, because I feel like I don't matter. Like the root of that is I feel like I don't matter. I feel worthless.
Yeah.
Like my presence on the earth doesn't matter because you cut in front of me in traffic.
Yeah.
So the next step of that, once it's, okay, I felt this trigger, what is the actual feeling I'm feeling here underneath anger? Get to that. And then the next thing is recognizing that that's a lie. The lie is that person, or the truth is that person just needed to get over and just was distracted and whatever. And even if they maybe aren't a considerate person, that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
That's their issue and their heart healing journey to work on. Not mine.
Yeah.
So in that moment, it's going, okay, the lie I'm believing here, you can always say, what is the lie I'm believing? The lie I'm believing is that I'm not important. I'm invisible.
Yeah.
I don't matter. And so you can say, okay, here's the lie, and then you replace it. You find a truth of God's word to replace that lie. The truth is that He intricately made me, that He knows how many hairs are on my head from just the morning when I brush it out and I feel like it all fell off. You know what I mean? Like at that moment,
she has good hair.
But it's like He knows me, He made me. It says that He made us perfectly. He made us in His image, that He knows the number of our days, that He delights Himself in us. Not only does He tolerate me, but he delights in me. And so when you start replacing, going, okay, the lie is I'm invisible and I matter. The truth is that God actually is very intentional with me, and I'm not here by accident. I am here on purpose, for a purpose. Like, this isn't an accident. This isn't just a flippant thing of like, oh, you're here, like, good luck. He knows those details about me. So once I can replace the lie with the truth of God's word about who he says I am, then I can go, okay, that is the truth. And the more you do that, the easier it is. I know it sounds like a lot, but it happens. That was maybe a 1-minute process on the continuation of my drive. I'm just kind of relaying it, and it sounds like, whoa, that's so much, but I promise it's not that long. And then the last step is to release, because once you recognize the pattern of, oh, that person did that, that's why I felt this way. It's actually because I believed this lie, that I didn't matter. But now I know that I do matter. And maybe, you know, my parents or whoever's inability to relay that to me is actually, I can release them for that. I don't have to, this isn't a thing of like, I need to be mad at my parents now. No, because we're all hurting and broken people, and we do the very best we can. Yeah. So in that moment, you release. So the first step is you recognize. The second step is you replace the lie. And the final step is releasing. So you release that driver of like, Lord, I just forgive them. I bless them. God, like, let them have the best day ever. Like, that had nothing to do. Their action tells nothing about my value. Yeah. That is 100% their thing. So we release them. And then if the Lord brings up a situation, you might remember as a kid, like, for me, it was that of like, you know, a promise of like, oh, later, and then that never happened. And so it's like, I'll come later, I'll show up later after work. And so then I'm like, oh, you know what? I expect that because I received that a lot. It was a pattern in my childhood, so now it's a pattern I expect in my adulthood. And so you release that person that repeatedly showed that pattern to you. Or it could have just been one big moment where you decided, okay, I don't ever want to hurt that bad again. Like, that would be a large rejection of like a parent walking out and never seeing them again. It's like, it doesn't have to always be these little moments. It can be one big moment. Yeah. So, you know, I know we use the example of a parent not showing up to a schooling event. So you can go, you know what, Lord, I forgive them for that. That actually didn't say anything about my value. That just said an action that they chose, but that doesn't determine my worth. Yeah. And that actually helps you take your power back and your healing back to go, I don't have to wait until they apologize or anything. I can choose wholeness right now. I can choose whole person wholeness. That doesn't just connect you more with God, because you forgive, and when we forgive, we automatically are able to receive the love of God more. We will then be able to see ourselves rightly, how God sees us. And then as we forgive others, we actually open ourselves up more to receive the love we actually want. Yes. But that we unintentionally keep rejecting. Wow. So it's a whole person health, as in it gets you everything you want, but we don't often know that we're doing the things, and that's what makes it hard. So the recognizing it, the anger, the frustration, the patterns of rejection, or man, this always does happen to me. Okay, where's the root of that? Yeah,
man, that's so good. And just so, I think you just painted it like beautifully too, just of like how we can take those steps to recognize that, but also like to get it to release.
Yeah, because it's important not to just go, oh man, there's so much wrong with me, you know? Oh
yeah, because I'm like trying to think. I was like, well, I really did get frustrated at this email I got the other day. I'm like, why did that trigger me so bad? Because I'm like such
everyday life.
Usually a positive person, but it like wrecked me for till the rest of the day.
This is such a good example.
And I just was like, and now I'm like, I kind of want to think like, what triggered that? Like, what was said in that email that made me react that way? Yes. I mean, I responded nicely in the email, but
maturity.
Yes, but like internally, I'm like, why did that frustrate me so bad?
That's such a good example, and that's a lot of times how it is. It's everyday life things where we go, wow, why does that bother me? And it's almost like it's annoying that it bothers you. Like, why can't I get over this?
Yeah, that's true.
But it's a lot of times it's God going, hey, there's something a little deeper there. And again, it doesn't have to be this like deep dive into like, you know, mourning of like, ooh, this, you know, I don't want to paint this picture like you're going to be depressed for a year while you work your stuff out, because that's not true. Like healing is hopeful and joyful when you partner with Jesus. Now, if you try to do this on your own, I know there's like a big movement too of like self-healing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
because we are, emotional people. We have different, how we feel at different times of day, and where God is constant and he's the same, and he always sees us the same.
Yeah.
And so bringing that thing of like, whoa, that email like really rubbed me the wrong way. And so you can go back, and was it what they expected of you in the timing that they wanted it done? Was it the tone? Did you feel like you were talked down to? Like, there's things that you can kind of go, okay, and then you'll kind of retrace those steps. That's a perfect example of little things that you're like, oh, that could be a pattern, to where next time the email will come and it just won't even bother you, because you realize it has nothing to do with you. It just triggered something in your heart that needed healing, that God's like, hey, let's deal with this so it doesn't come out in every area. Because that's what I think we do too. We'll think, oh, that's just in that one email, but it will bleed over into everything, every relationship. So what's also cool about that is when you do get healing in that one area, it actually floods into every area of your life.
Yeah. This was so good. Thank you so much, Krissi, for being on the vlog. This was so good, and I know we said this in the last vlog, but she will be having virtual heart healing sessions. And so if you want to connect with her, I'll put her social media below. Be sure to follow me on my social media, my podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and be sure, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, to subscribe. And I hope you got as much out of today's vlog that I did. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.